and we are continuing the quest to have a more silent studio. Hi, Kenji here, and today we are going to be talking about a problem that I had inside my studio and how I solved it. The problem that I had was inside my studio, I have a vent that is right over there, and that vent over there, it is actually pretty loud. And it's one of these things where I don't necessarily want to always shut off my entire HVAC system whenever I want to do a video. So I wanted to come up with a different way to solve the problem. So I thought about how I made my sound absorbing panels in the background over here. And I thought about how I did that, and I was wondering whether I could do something similar for the vent to see whether it would actually help with solving the sound that I have of the air constantly going through the grates. So what I did is I made this guy right over here, and I'm going to be showing you exactly how I made it. So if you want, you can actually make it yourself too, because this guy over here, it made a huge difference, and the amount of materials that this actually costed to make was probably somewhere in the $10 range, or maybe even less than that. So what I want to do is I actually first wanted to show a little video of the before and after of the performance of this sound absorbing panel over here, so you can see for yourself how much sound that this little panel over here is absorbing from that vent. And it makes a huge difference. So if you're in the situation where you can't necessarily control whether the HVAC system is coming on and off inside of the studio where you're trying to do some recording, well, doing something like this can actually make a huge difference. So this is the problem that we are trying to solve. This is the vent that is inside my studio, and this vent actually puts out a decent amount of sound. So if I actually hold my lav mic up to it, you can basically hear how loud it actually is. And closing the vent flaps actually does almost no difference. If not, actually, it makes it worse. So this is what it sounds when the vent flaps are closed. Now what we're going to do is we are going to attach the new vent sound absorber, and then we will then take another sound test to see how much of a difference that it makes. And now I'm actually holding the mic up, and it makes a tremendous difference. It almost makes it completely silent. And from where this vent is compared to where I normally do my recording, which is right over here, it makes a huge difference with how loud things are. So once again, here is how loud it is with the vent cover. And now I'm going to take it off again. And so there's the sound test. So before we jump into the how-to, I just want to quickly go over some of the materials that I used in order to make this little sound absorbing panel. I just used some pieces of scrap plywood that I had sitting around the shop, and I also used some pieces of towel that I had as leftovers from making the sound absorbing panels that I had behind me. And then I also basically bought some rare earth magnets off of Amazon for a pretty cheap price, and it came with a bunch of them, and I only used 2 of them. So I have a bunch left in case I need to make more of these guys or use them for other reasons. And so the amount of materials is actually really cheap, and you can actually get a lot of this stuff for free. You can probably talk to your friends and see if they have any extra plywood just sitting around from old projects that they did. You can easily get free towels from people. Just ask them, hey, do you have any towels that have stains that you just want to get rid of? And you could easily get enough towels to make one of these panels for free from your friends. After that, you can probably just go to Home Depot maybe to pick up some rare earth magnets, and then pretty much you're gonna be good to go. So let's go ahead and jump into the how-to, and then after the how-to part of the video, let's go ahead and talk about my thoughts on how well this actually did. So what we are going to do is we are going to solve the problem of having a noisy vent. Just in case you happen to be in a situation where you can't turn your HVAC off, but you're trying to get a nice quiet studio. Sometimes the air coming through the vent is something that drives you nuts, and you just want to quiet it down a little bit. And I'm going to show you a really easy way to do it with some really cheap materials. So my particular vents happen to be 11.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And what I want to do is I want to basically create a bed of towels that basically cover up the vents so that the air basically hits the towels and really kind of mutes that sound a lot. Is it going to completely go away? No, but it's going to be really, really close. The first thing that you need is you need to get a board like this. This is just a small piece of scrap plywood that I have. You can use solid wood if you want, but I happen to have some plywood sitting around. And this one over here is slightly oversized. This is 11.75 inches by 5.75 inches, but that's okay. Because really the only thing I care about is that it can basically sit flush up against the vent and actually hold the towels kind of tightly up against all the grates inside the vent. So what you're gonna need to do this is you are gonna need to get a bunch of towels. Now I made a bunch of sound panels before where I used a bunch of towels, and these were all the little pieces of scraps that I had left over. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to basically be creating a bed of towels maybe about this thick, and then that way that can be pushed up against the vent grates, and it's going to basically mute all the air coming through the vent, and it's going to make things a lot more quiet. So as you can see right over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically have these little pieces of towel over here, and I'm going to fold them over so that they basically create a small stack right over here in the center. Now you want to keep one towel over here that is oversized, and you're going to use that in order to kind of create a little pocket for all the towels to kind of sit in place and kind of be held tightly down. So I'm gonna keep one of them to be a little bit oversized, and then I'm gonna be taking the other ones and I'm gonna be cutting them down to the size of the actual vent. Now let me see what the actual size of these vents are. So while the actual vent is 11.5 by 5.5, the actual size of the grates that the air comes out of is 3.5 by 9.5. So that is really the size that we need to actually make the towels in order to make the bed of towels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a pair of scissors and I'm going to basically measure out 9.5 by 3.5. And actually I'm going to make it slightly oversized. And it's actually fine to have it a little bit longer. It's actually more the width that you need to be a little bit more careful of. So it's more important to make it 3.5. Let's make it maybe 3. Let's actually make it 4, because in that way you can basically press it down like a little bit more. So let's go ahead and make it 4 inches long. Start from this side. And after that, you just need to make a nice line down over here. After that, you can basically keep doing the same thing for all the other ones as well. Perfect, just like that. So we got like a nice little pad that we have set up that's approximately 4 inches wide. So now that we have this over here, we need to make sure that we cut it down to the right size to fit the board over here, because I don't really want to have this dangling part over here, because it doesn't actually help block the sound at all. So I'm just going to cut that down to the right size. So now we have our nice tight pack of towels. This is going to really help mute the sound a lot. So what we need to do is we need to now get 2 pieces of short piece of wood over here that we're going to use in order to kind of, so what I want to do is I want to basically have this towel over here be used as a way to hold this entire pack of towels all in place. So I just lay it over top over here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these strips of wood and I'm going to place it on top and literally just screw it right down.
and that's gonna hold all the towels in place. And that's literally it in order to keep everything nice and tight. So I needed to make 2 pieces of wood that are the same length as this board over here. Now that we have 2 boards over here that are the exact same length, what we want to do is we want to then screw these boards in and in order to hold the towels in the right spot. And we want the actual pad of towels, we want this pad of towels to actually protrude from the top a little bit, because that's going to actually create a nice tight seal around the actual vent ports. But if it protrudes a little bit too much, then this is not going to be able to hook onto the vents. Now, the reason why this is going to work, and the way that this is going to actually be able to hold itself onto a ceiling vent, is I'm going to be using these magnets over here that I got from Amazon, and I can actually link this inside the description of the video. These are rare earth magnets, so they're pretty strong. I was going to use 4 of them, but these are actually really strong magnets, and I really think that just 2 of these will actually hold this little contraption up against the vent well enough. And if I need to add more, I will, but I think 2 is going to be good enough. So let's go ahead and start playing around with the height of this thing over here to make sure that the pad extends out from the top of these boards over here, but not so much that the magnets can actually engage with the vent. So as you can see right over here, I'm basically using this towel and it's laid on top, and it's going to be sandwiched in between the bottom board and this top board right here. And that is going to hold everything nicely in place, so it's not going to move at all. So now that I got that over there, now all I have to do is take this pad over here, place it on top, and then I'm going to take this towel, I'm going to lay it over top of it. Anything extra I will end up trimming off. Oops, I need to make sure that this is lined up right. I want to have it facing this way so it's easier for me to remove towels as I need to adjust the height. And after that, just going to screw it in. That's good. This guy here, I want to make sure this guy locks into place as well. And this guy feels like it's locking into place, so I'm going to do the same thing. Screw it in. And this guy right here, tie him down. So there you go. This guy's now tightly holding everything together. Let's add a couple layers back on, because you want to protrude a little bit from the top over here, so it presses up against the actual vent grate. And you want to be able to, you want to basically push this guy up against the side if you can, the best you can. And then you want to take this board over here and you want to push it kind of back slightly. Now, once it's in what you think is the right place, what you want to do is you want to then make sure that the towels over here are still protruding out just a little bit. And that should create a nice tight seal. And I think that is going to be good. I can take this piece of board and push this guy back a little bit and see where I'm at. So these guys still can compress down so it's pretty flat. And especially once you get the one magnet over here, it's also going to help hold things as well. So I think that's going to be the right height, but hey, if it's not perfect and it doesn't actually work with the vent, then what you could always do is you could always just unscrew it and then take out one of the layers of towels or 2 layers. So you can kind of adjust it. It isn't like a permanent thing that once you screw it in, you're done. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to take this board over here and I want to drill 2 holes again. And so let's go ahead and do that now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of tuck this up against the side as much as I can. I'm going to lay this piece over here, and then I'm going to screw it in. All right, perfect. So now got this over here, and Now what we can do is we can actually test it up against the vent. Let's see how well it does. All right, so I think it's gonna be good. I'm going to now epoxy on these magnets, and that should hold everything nicely in place. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So I'm gonna take one of these magnets right over here. I'm going to basically just essentially glue it right here. I'm just gonna use a little bit of 2-part epoxy over here, just 5-minute epoxy. Gonna mix it together and then we should be good to go. And epoxy doesn't stick very well to non-rough surfaces, so I'm just gonna take a little bit of sandpaper, just rough up the side just a little bit over here. I don't even know if I need to do this, but it definitely doesn't hurt to just rough up one of the sides of the magnet so that epoxy has more of a grip that you can actually hold on to. And do that with 2 of these magnets. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm basically just adding a little bit of epoxy to both sides over here. Then I'm gonna take the rough side with the magnet, stick it down over here, just like this. And now you should have a nice little bed for it to stick to. And at this point, we just need to wait until the epoxy sets. But this is basically what it looks like over here. Of course, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but you know what? I'm not going for pretty, I'm going for function and form right now. Now that the epoxy has dried, now we can actually test it out. And I did test it out really quick, and this pad over here is way too tall. So these magnets aren't actually sticking to the side of the vents the way that I want them to. So not a big deal. All you have to do is remove one of the sides. Let's remove actually the larger side over here, and we'll take out a couple layers. Let's go ahead and take out 2 layers. Let's see how that goes. Let's put this back on now. Okay, so now what we can do is we can then test it out again. All right, perfect. It actually engages really well. So now this thing is pretty much done, except for got a little bit of extra towel hanging out. So all we're gonna do is we're just gonna trim this off over here, but that is it. This is our little vent cover. And let me show you exactly how it works. So, see that vent up there? That vent over there is what we are trying to make a little bit quieter. And you can hear the air coming out of it. Now, if I basically take this thing right here, and I basically just hold it up to it, the magnets engage, and it stays there. Just like that. It's perfect. And it is a lot more quiet. I can actually hear other vents and things coming through the other doors and things like that, but from this vent over here, it is extremely quiet now. Now, something to keep in mind is that I'm not going to talk about safety. You have to make your own determination about the strength of your magnets and whether you feel safe only having magnets holding this sort of sound barrier up. But for me, I feel that it's going to be safe enough, especially considering that whenever I'm doing any filming, I'm going to be alone in the studio, and I'm only going to have these things on the vents while I am actually doing the recording. After that, I'm going to remove it so I can, still have my HVAC system pushing out warm air into my studio.
All right, so that was basically the how-to of how I made this sound absorbing panel over here. And when I made it, I wasn't exactly sure how well it would actually perform. I thought it would perform pretty well, but when I actually tried this out, I was actually floored by how silent it actually made the vent, because that vent, you constantly hear the air rushing through it, and it definitely is is really loud, and a lot of times if my gain is up a little bit too high on my microphones, and I definitely hear it inside the background of my videos whenever there's silence in between parts where I'm actually talking. And it really bugs me a lot, because then I always have to run the noise reducer, which I would probably do anyway, but you know, if I can actually not have to run the noise reducer, or not have the noise reducer inside of Audacity actually run on like quite so high of a level, that would actually probably be pretty good. So from now on, I'm gonna be using this inside of my videos in order to help absorb a lot of the background sound from that vent right over there. If you have any questions about how I made this particular sound panel, definitely throw your questions down in the comments below. I would be happy to answer it. And I still have the footage for how I made a lot more of this. I did cut a lot of it out to try and make the how-to part of the video a little bit shorter. But if you guys are really curious about the full details on it, I could always make another video where I include a lot more of the details of how I actually made this particular panel over here. And also, if you like these sort of videos and you want to see videos for how I made like those panels back there behind me, definitely let me know down below, because I kind of had the footage for how I made those panels behind me, but it's a kind of a long video and I wasn't really sure whether you guys would actually enjoy that or not. So leave me a comment down below, let me know, and then hey, I could always post-process the video and then actually post it for you guys. So don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out this channel a lot, and I'm trying to grow my subscribers, and every subscription helps. So until the next tutorial video or unboxing or review video, hey, take care.